He was the boy everyone overlooked, the quiet child with the broken voice and the strange, elastic face. Classmates mocked him as if he didn't belong on this planet. Yet from that wounded silence rose a man the world would one day call a legend. Behind the laughter, behind the clumsy innocence of a global icon, lived a secret life shaped by trauma, obsession, and exhaustion. This is the story behind the smile that fooled millions. The silent child in the corner. Before the world ever laughed because of him, Rowan lived in a home marked by quiet grief, a brother lost in infancy, a family that seldom spoke of pain, and a youngest son who absorbed that silence as if it were stitched into his skin. At 5, his voice began to betray him, words breaking apart, stuttering into fragments he couldn't control. Every attempt to speak felt like stepping into a battlefield he never won. School turned that struggle into cruelty. Children mocked the pauses in his speech, the strange elasticity of his face, the way he froze before simple sentences. Some whispered a name that clung to him like a curse, the alien. So he withdrew into corners, sketching instead of talking, avoiding eyes that demanded answers his voice refused to give. Canon John Grove later remembered him as a painfully shy boy trapped inside a voice that wouldn't obey. Even Tony Blair, just another student then, sensed the weight of the bullying pressing on him day after day. But hidden inside that silence was a miracle no one could explain. The moment he stepped onto a stage, the stutter vanished, instantly, completely, as if fear itself bowed to the spotlight. The boy who struggled to say his own name suddenly spoke with clarity and control, revealing a confidence no one had ever seen. He didn't understand it, but he felt its power. The pain that isolated him was slowly forging something extraordinary. And it leaves a haunting question hanging in the air. How does a child the world tried to silence become the man who made it laugh? The engineer who turned into an artist. He was supposed to belong to a world of numbers, not stages. At Newcastle University, he rose quietly above everyone else, an unlikely prodigy of electrical engineering, the kind of student professors remembered for precision, not charisma. Oxford claimed him next, expecting him to finish a master's degree that would cement his future in science. On the surface, he seemed perfectly built for it, disciplined, meticulous, brilliant. But something inside him was cracking. Research felt cold, mechanical, empty. His stutter made every presentation a slow humiliation, as if his own voice were trying to push him out of the life he had chosen. And yet, whenever he entertained friends with odd gestures or silent sketches, a different version of him emerged. One that didn't tremble, didn't break, didn't fear. Then came the rehearsal room at Oxford, the moment destiny finally spoke. In the corner stood a shy, rigid young man who barely dared to lift his eyes. But when he performed, miming, contorting, unleashing a storm of expression, Richard Curtis watched in awe. That wasn't an engineer. That was a phenomenon waiting to be discovered, a man whose genius had been hiding behind equations for far too long. He kept pretending he belonged in the lab, submitting research and drafting academic work. But every night he felt the same pull, the stage calling him back to the one place where his voice obeyed him. Under the spotlight, he was whole. Under the spotlight, he was powerful. And the question lingered, impossible to ignore. Was he discovering a new destiny, or uncovering the one he was born for all along? The years of failure and relentless rejection. Before success ever reached his door, rejection lived there first. Between 1978 and 1979, he walked into BBC buildings carrying hope and walked out carrying silence. Producers didn't understand his odd, near-wordless style. They didn't understand the young man whose face spoke louder than dialogue, whose body held a language they weren't ready to hear. And when his stutter returned during auditions, their doubts hardened. each no cut deeper than the last. Nights became heavy. He wondered if leaving engineering, a world that respected precision and logic, had been a mistake. In the isolation of rented rooms, he battled a quiet, suffocating fear that he had chosen the wrong dream. Yet even in that darkness, something kept him moving, the strange miracle that his stutter vanished the moment he stepped into a character. The pain that crippled him in real life disappeared under the lights. So he survived on small chances. Late-night radio sketches, tiny roles, rehearsals in dusty rooms with old Oxford friends who still believed in his spark. None of it was fame, but all of it was fuel. Then came Edinburgh Fringe, 1979, his first fragile step toward recognition. Some viewers walked out confused by his silent, elastic-faced routines, but others stayed. They saw a performer who could twist stillness into comedy, who could bend his body into a language sharper than words. He wasn't a star yet, but he was finally becoming visible. And that visibility carried a single, trembling question. After so much failure, was this the beginning of his rise? Or just another cliff waiting to collapse beneath him? The turning point, not the 9 o'clock news. He entered the show with the weight of every past rejection still clinging to him, but 1979 offered him one final chance. A sketch program unlike anything on British television. When Not the 9 o'clock news first aired, it landed with a thud. Low ratings, cold reviews. Critics dismissed it as confusing, too sharp, too strange. Some even said it shouldn't exist at all. After years of failure, this felt like another door closing in his face. But behind the scenes, something electric was happening. Among the cast, Pamela Stephenson, Mel Smith, Griff Rhys-Jones, he began shaping a new identity. A performer who didn't rely on words, who could bend timing and silence into weapons sharper than any punchline. And then came the sketch that changed everything. Dressed in a gorilla suit, he exploded onto the screen with a single furious line. Wild. I was absolutely livid. It was absurd, unexpected, brilliant. Audiences replayed it. Scientists quoted it. For the first time, the country leaned forward and paid attention. Success didn't soften the chaos. Cast changes, creative disagreements, and slashed budgets turned the set into a battlefield. Yet within that turmoil, his courage hardened. The shy boy who once hid in corners now fought to protect fellow performers and defend the show's integrity. Each episode sharpened him, his precision, his presence, his understanding of what made people laugh. By the time awards arrived, he was no longer the outsider everyone doubted. He was the revelation no one saw coming. And a question lingered in every studio hallway. If this was only the beginning, what kind of legend was he about to become next? Blackadder, When Darkness Created a Masterpiece. He entered Blackadder not as a rising star, but as a man still uncertain of his place in comedy. The first season was a beautiful disaster. Lavish sets, endless rain, spiraling budgets, and reviews sharp enough to cut. Critics called it unfocused, too big, too odd. BBC nearly killed it after one season, and for a moment, the old fear returned. The fear that everything he had clawed his way toward was slipping away again. But then the show transformed. When the chaos was stripped away, no more castles, no more sprawling battles, something remarkable emerged. With Ben Elton joining the writing team, the tone sharpened. The jokes hit harder, the characters deepened, and Rowan himself shifted from timid prince to razor-tongued mastermind. It was as if he had finally stepped into the skin he was born to wear. Blackadder 2 ignited a cultural spark. Miranda Richardson's unhinged Queenie, the brilliant disasters of Baldrick, the unforgettable guest roles. Together, they built a world of comedy sharper and smarter than anything else on television. By the time Blackadder Goes Forth arrived, the show dared to do the unthinkable, place humor inside the horror of World War I. And it worked. It didn't mock the tragedy. It revealed the absurdity of it, the heartbreak, the quiet courage. The final scene, soldiers charging into smoke as the battlefield turns into a field of poppies, became one of the most haunting endings ever aired. Behind the camera, Rowan, Hugh Laurie, and Stephen Fry had become a family, improvising lines that would live for decades. With Blackadder, he didn't just survive television, he conquered it. And it left the world wondering how long before he created a character that would eclipse even this one. Mr. Bean, the laughter that cost him everything. He created Mr. Bean almost by accident, a strange, silent creature born from the same pain that once trapped him as a child. And when the first episode aired on January 1st, 1990, something extraordinary happened. Without a single full sentence spoken, he captured the world. Mr. Bean became a global language, understood in every country, in every age, in every culture. No British comedian before him had crossed borders so effortlessly. He had become a phenomenon. But behind the universal laughter was a truth far darker. Mr. Bean drained him. Every expression required surgical precision. Every scene demanded complete control of his body, his breath, even the smallest twitch of his eyebrow. And because the character almost never spoke, the pressure on his physical performance became unbearable. While the world laughed, he felt himself breaking from the inside. Film success only made the burden heavier. Bean, 1997, shattered box office records, pulling in over $250 million. Audiences demanded more. Studios demanded more. Yet the man behind the character quietly admitted he dreaded every shoot. What looked effortless on screen was, to him, a battlefield of anxiety and perfectionism. He once confessed he often looked forward only to the moment it was finally over. So he sought relief where he could. The animated series allowed him to step back, offering his voice instead of sacrificing his body. And yet the world kept calling him back, most loudly during the 2012 London Olympics, when nearly 1 billion people watched him resurrect Bean one more time. The performance was iconic, electric, and it left him exhausted for weeks. For millions, Mr. Bean was joy. For him, Mr. Bean was a beautiful cage. Which leaves a haunting question: how long can a man carry the weight of a character the whole world refuses to let die? Lights, love, and the collapse behind closed doors. Long before the tabloids discovered his private life, he lived it quietly, faithfully, almost timidly. He met Sunetra Sastry on the Blackadder set, a makeup artist whose kindness disarmed him instantly. He even switched makeup artists just for the chance to speak to her. They married in 1990, raised 2 children, and built a life far away from cameras. For 24 years, it looked unshakable, an anchor in a world that demanded too much of him. But success has a way of hollowing out the spaces fame can't reach. By 2014, the marriage cracked. Sunetra cited unreasonable behavior, and the quiet life they once protected collapsed under public scrutiny. The man who made the world laugh now found his own family breaking in the harshest spotlight. Headlines painted him as distant, cold, absent. And the silence he used to escape into as a child returned, this time heavier. Then came Louise Ford, a younger actress he met while performing theater. Their connection ignited a media storm. Critics attacked the age gap, fans blamed him for betrayal, and comedians whispered that he'd stolen someone else's partner. He said nothing. He always said nothing. In 2017, at 62, he became a father again, this time to a daughter named Isla, born into a world already judging her parents. Amid the noise, one truth remained: the man who mastered physical comedy could never control the chaos of his own heart. His love life became a battlefield he couldn't choreograph, couldn't rehearse, couldn't escape. and it leaves one question lingering like an unfinished scene. Can a man who brings joy to millions ever truly find peace inside the walls of his own home? The moments the world never saw. For all the characters he played, the bravest one was the man no camera ever captured. In March 2001, aboard a small plane slicing through the Kenyan sky, he faced a moment that could have ended everything. When the pilot suddenly collapsed mid-flight, panic consumed the cabin, except for him. The comedian known for chaos stepped into absolute control. With no training, no guidance, he seized the controls and kept the aircraft steady until the pilot regained consciousness. In silence, he saved every life on board. The world would never look at him the same way again, if only it knew. But courage wasn't the only hidden truth. In 2012, he stood in Britain's parliament and delivered a speech that stunned even his critics. Calm, sharp, unwavering, he defended free speech with the precision of a lawyer and the conviction of a man who had spent his life fighting to be heard. Some praised him, others condemned him, but no one ignored him. Behind the shy persona was a mind far louder, far fiercer than the world ever expected. These rare glimpses, gripping the controls of a dying plane, challenging the government with unshakable resolve, revealed a man built far stronger than the fragile characters he portrayed. They hinted at a life far more complex than the silent clown millions adored. And they raise a single unnerving question: if these are the moments we know, how many untold battles has he fought in the shadows, without an audience, without applause, and without ever letting the world see him tremble? The controversies and the shadows that followed him. For decades, he was seen as the gentle genius of comedy, the man who harmed no one, criticized no one, offended no one. But in 2023, the world watched that image fracture. When he wrote an article claiming electric vehicles produced more emissions than people realized, the backlash was instant and explosive. Environmental groups called him misinformed. Scientists accused him of spreading dangerous myths. Politicians said sales of EVs dropped because of him. And suddenly, the man once praised for his quiet integrity was painted as a hypocrite, especially when the public learned he owned a collection of supercars worth millions. The controversy didn't stop there. Years earlier, he had voiced Zazu in The Lion King, a role he reluctantly accepted. Ironically, that brief performance became one of Disney's most iconic. Yet when the 2019 remake arrived, he refused to return, fueling endless speculation that he disliked the franchise, the studio, or the industry itself. Fans wondered, had success soured him, or had fame simply demanded too much for too long? Every headline chipped away at the tidy image the world had built for him. The quiet clown, the harmless entertainer, the gentle soul. But behind that facade stood a man unafraid to challenge governments, corporations, and even public opinion. A man with sharp convictions and sharper scars. And with every storm he walked through, one question grew darker, heavier, harder to ignore. Was the world finally seeing the real him, or only the shadows cast by a legend no one ever truly understood? At 70, a legacy larger than the man himself. As the years pressed forward, his body began whispering truths his mind didn't want to hear. The stunts that once felt effortless now left him breathless. During the filming of Man vs. Bee in 2022, even a simple bike sequence drained him for days. Yet he pushed through, driven not by ego, but by the strange burden of a character who refused to die. And when he turned 70 on January 6, 2025, millions celebrated him. Yet he remained painfully aware that time was no longer a distant threat. It was a shadow standing right beside him. But while age slowed the man, it only strengthened the legend. Mr. Bean's YouTube channel crossed 12 billion views, pulling in millions of subscribers from every corner of the globe. Children in Mumbai laughed at the same gags as families in Tokyo and São Paulo. Critics began calling him the 21st century Chaplin, while comedy schools taught the Atkinson method as if it were scripture. His silent clown had become universal. Bigger than TV, bigger than film, bigger than him. Then came the shock. In 2024, the animated series confirmed a fan theory whispered for decades. Mr. Bean was an alien. The opening sequence, the strange behavior, the uncanny innocence, it all finally made sense. Fans felt vindicated, and the myth grew even stronger, proving that the character had escaped its creator and become a world of its own. Standing at 70, he watched his creation continue without him, thriving, expanding, evolving. A global icon born from childhood pain, perfected through discipline, and carried on the shoulders of a man who never wanted the spotlight but could never escape it. And now the world wonders, as the legend grows, how much longer can the man behind it keep walking beside the giant he created? Awards, glory, and the doubt that never left him. For a man who built an empire of laughter, the trophies came in waves. BAFTAs, Olivier Awards, an international Emmy, each one a testament to a career that reshaped British comedy. Not the 9 o'clock news crowned him early. Blackadder carved his name into television history. Mr. Bean carried him across borders no comedian had ever crossed, transforming him from a national talent into a global icon. His shelf glittered with honors most actors never even dream of. But behind the shine was a truth almost no one believed. He never thought he deserved any of it. Despite the sold-out theaters, the international hits, the billions of views, he lived with a quiet, unshakable doubt. Every performance felt like a test. Every success felt accidental. He feared disappointing people more than he feared failure itself. And even in the height of his fame, he confessed that he rarely, if ever, felt truly successful. Perhaps that was his greatest contradiction. A man adored by millions yet forever unsure of his own brilliance. A performer who mastered silence yet lived surrounded by noise, expectations, opinions, demands, myths. His genius was undeniable, but his humility was haunting. And so his story ends where it began. With a quiet soul trapped inside a body, the world refuses to stop watching. A child once mocked as an alien. Now a legend who changed comedy forever, while still wondering if he ever belonged in the spotlight at all. Which leaves one final question echoing in the minds of those who followed his journey. Was Rowan Atkinson chasing greatness all his life, or trying to outrun the boy he once was?